I'd like to introduce Roland Lloyd of Standards Australia. Roland is the Head of Engagement and Strategic Delivery. His title today for presentation is Standards Australia Digital Engineering Initiative. Roland is the Head of Engagement and Strategic Delivery in Standards Australia. Key responsibilities in this role include leading a team of engagement strategic managers accountable for establishing, building and maintaining relationships for existing and new stakeholders to ensure the success of Standards Australia work in development and adopting standards in the national interest. Additional responsibility includes accountability for a portfolio of cross-sector initiatives supporting key government and Standard Australia objectives. Prior to this, Roland was the Head of Standards Development, overseeing multiple teams to deliver publications within agreed timeframes and to exceed the need for contributors' expectations. He has been with SA since 2017, and I have been involved. There's, I think, 3 separate discussion papers now building the case for digital engineering. So to elaborate on that, I'll hand over to Roland, if that's all right. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Just confirming you can see my screen, the agenda?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Perfect. Bill, thank you for the introduction and for allowing me to present to your members today, and for the IPWA for having Australia present. I just want to preface the discussion that no one at Standards Australia are technical experts. It might come as a bit of a shock to some people, but we rely on a vast range of industry stakeholders to help us with our work. So while my presentation on digital engineering may be high level, I encourage any questions in the chat. If I can't take them, I'll take them on notice. But really the content is in the white papers themselves, and I'll just give you an overview of what we're doing in this initiative and some of the sort of adjacency projects which all interrelate. And then I'll start off just by giving you an overview of who we are and why we need standards. And I hope when we do this presentation, a lot of the time no one's heard of Standards Australia. So we put this in just as a bit of a guidance piece to set the scene of who we are. So essentially we're a non-government standards development organisation with an MOU with the Commonwealth that essentially makes us the national standards body, and we represent Australia's interests internationally through ISO and IEC. Proposed changes to our standards or the adoption of international standards is not decided by Standards Australia. It's driven by industry and stakeholders through our online proposal portal and subsequent processes. We're an association-based organisation, and just for some numbers, we have around 2,900 members providing representation on our technical committees, and that amounts to around 5,500 members across approximately 350 technical committees. And our real aim is to be inclusive when we're developing standards, and really look to ensure that we have a balanced representation of stakeholders on our committees. We call those sort of interest groups, but it's really important that anyone who may be impacted by a new standard or a change to an existing standard or the adoption of an international one has a say in the process. Not necessarily a seat at the table, but we do try and ensure that seats represent broad interests. And we also have the opportunity for members of the public and other interested parties to review the work that we're going to do through our proposal platform, as well as having the opportunity to provide comment on all our work before it's published through our public consultation periods. Just going back to those interest categories, when we look at a balanced committee, we want to have consumer and community interests, employee representative bodies, government organisations, industry and professional technical associations, manufacturers, importers, suppliers, regulatory controlling bodies, research and academia, testing bodies, unions, and users and purchasing bodies. So a wide group of interest groups that participate in our process. I've spoken about the public comment solution. So prior to publishing a document under our obligations to the World Trade Organization, Technical Barriers to Trade, we go through an 8-week public consultation period where members of the public and interested parties can comment on the draft. And I think an important distinguishing factor in our consultation process, which we've introduced probably in the last year, Traditionally, when someone made a comment, it would go to the technical committee, it'll be assessed and either accepted with modification or not accepted. And there was no feedback given to the commenter of that comment. So essentially, you'd have to basically read the standard to see if your comments were taken on board. That doesn't support our ambitions of transparency. So the new solution ensures that the outcome of the comment is sent back to the commenter with a note or justification for that decision. So really closing the loop and providing comments. So I would encourage that if any of you are involved in standards or want to comment on standards, to make use of that service. So essentially, why do we need standards? They are voluntary documents that set out specifications, procedures, guidelines that aim to ensure consistent products, services, ensure that they are safe and reliable. And importantly, they may become mandatory if deemed so or relevant by regulatory authorities. Standards give products a competitive edge and help Australian businesses compete globally to a wider market. They also assist with harmonisation across Australia's laws and regulations, as well as the international setting. And with the rapid emergence of new technologies, standards drive innovation and competitiveness in these fields, while also ensuring responsible and secure use of technologies. We have been known to be a slow-moving beast. Our average timeframes for publications of documents are around 18 months now, and that's come down significantly in the last few years. And we're always working on process to really improve these timelines through streamlined processes, systems, upskilling our internal teams and contributors. And at the end of this presentation, Will, if you can remind me, I'll just talk to a new sort of pathway that we have implemented that will hopefully speed up that delivery of content where practically necessary. So digital engineering, I'm not sure if people have read the papers, but I think, Bill, at the conclusion of this, we will send out the decks or definitely some links to the content that I'll be talking to. And again, really is high sort of level concept at this point about what we're doing with digital engineering. And it sort of lends into the new pathways piece and some changes to our organization where traditionally we've got our standards committees and the process that run through from proposal to publication. But essentially we generally operate in traditional sectors of building, construction, water and waste, energy and the likes. And what we've seen recently is the sort of cross-sectorial plays that are impacting our catalogue and the work that we do. So we've introduced a strategic delivery team, hence the second part of my title, which really looks at government objectives, pressing issues in the Australian sort of landscape, and how we can look to help solve those problems through the delivery of standards. Some of the concepts that we're talking to is obviously digital engineering, as we're talking to today, but concepts like circular economy, smart energy, and critical and emerging technologies. And where we see these new and emerging technologies appear, generally there's a rapid pace of change, and I don't think 18 months cuts it in the sort of pace that community expectations are wanting versus what we can do through our traditional sort of standards development settings. So what we're looking at doing through an alternate standards development pathway is really where we don't have a technical committee that has the scope of the content that we're looking at, is that sort of Standards Australia can be the proponent or the provide the concept to these new documents and run it through our process rapidly, but still adhering to our rules of racing and those obligations of the WTO technical barriers to trade and our standardization guides. And digital engineering is potentially one of these concepts where we can take it through this new pathway. But importantly, with the new pathway, we want to ensure that we are getting the concepts and the theory and the content right. As I said, we're not the technical experts, but we work with pretty competent people. But it's not enough just to get their viewpoints. So what we're doing through events like this, presenting to industry groups and stakeholders, is the concept of digital engineering. And through the release of white papers, and you'll see there's a sort of podcast talking to the topic. So we really want to get industry's viewpoints, whether they're good or bad, supportive or not, to ensure that what we're doing is going to benefit the Australian community. And I think that's an important concept as we move through these slides and other initiatives that I'll talk to. So essentially, what is digital engineering? I think over the last few years, a conversation has been emerging on how we can better integrate our physical and virtual environments generally in all aspects, but also in the built environment. And with engineering and the construction sector facing an unprecedented demand for its services, the demand for new capabilities and digital improvements has grown significantly. With the vision to accelerate and consolidate digital transformation in the engineering and construction sector, SANS Australia, us have commenced this new initiative to explore the opportunities to bridge the digital divide and build sector-wide data management capabilities. And I want to emphasize the word explore, because this is what we're doing through these consultative pieces and white papers to ensure that we're on point. A lot of sort of buzzwords of the day that I'm sure everyone's familiar with, but new concepts like smart cities, digital twins have evolved significantly, especially in the areas of sort of building information modeling and the likes, and they've enabled significant improvements in design and coordination and visualization of major projects in the sector. And this in turn has been a catalyst for further initiatives to improve information management. The demand for new capabilities and digital improvements has grown significantly since then, with the current focus on greater accuracy and time, cost estimates, improved project controls during delivery, improved sustainability and embodied carbon management, holistic data sharing, and other aspects of operations. And while the digital dial has shifted somewhat, the sector, in the view of the people that we're working with, still has a long way to go. I think Bill mentioned start the journey somewhere, which is what we're aiming to achieve. And essentially, we want to bring all these technologies together to enable interoperability with regards to data across the complete asset lifecycle. Excuse me, I'm just going to have some water. So digital engineering capitalizes on the power of data as a collaborative way of working, using semantic data management to enable more productive methods of project delivery and asset management. And with the emergence of data-driven reporting supporting business decisions, and as I'm sure we'll hear later on today, the expansion of artificial intelligence is essential to have a reliable and consistent data set as the foundation of these new advancements. Pretty straightforward slide, but I think there's a lot of complexity behind it. But traditionally in the sector, data sets have traditionally remained siloed, and due to the file-based approach to data management. And really, digital engineering looks to address these silos by defining a consistent metadata for all data sets, and effectively supporting a digital ecosystem of linked databases. Yeah, I think the common language model, which people may be aware of, how can standards assist in this set? And standards can assist by sort of defining those metadata and data sets, not only the actual objects and fields and the like, but the concepts, and essentially also having just consistent terminology across the sector to ensure that we're all speaking the same language. This is a graphic from a paper which we haven't quite released, but I think it summarizes what we're aiming to do quite simply, and it's ready to enable successful engineering. The sector does need a common digital language to share and exchange critical metadata about the built environment by designing a data architecture that allows interconnected databases to talk. Quite, as I said, simple in its concept, but given the size of the industry, quite enormous in its execution. And the idea is that the creation of a common data model, along with an associated common data dictionary, can transform data management capability for the engineering and construction sector. There's also aims that the data model will be accessible to all parties seeking to create and exchange and rely on consistent data over the complete asset lifecycle, and it will also be open source, providing a level playing field to everyone keen to collaborate and share data. The common data model also creates what we call a digital thread, requiring formal payloads of consistently structured metadata to be delivered at each stage of the lifecycle. And I think the key point there is consistently structured when we think about AI and the need for sort of clean and structured data. And the digital threads will enable both public and private organizations to transform asset performance, boost productivity, and lay the foundation for future opportunities such as network digital twins, smart infrastructure, and the holistic objectives of smart cities. And I'll talk to you a few of those concepts further down the track. These are the papers that we've released to date. So shifting the paradigm, this is just really presenting the concept of what we're talking about. Then the introduction of the common data model, and we will be releasing a paper towards the end of this year, which will be the last slide of this deck, I think, when we talk about next steps, but also a really interesting conversation on our podcast, which has set the standards with Simon Boy from DEOS Digital and Eric Bugija from Building Smart Australia. So we're really trying to start the conversation, talk to other organizations that may have started a digital engineering journey or may have the label of a digital engineering concept, but it may be underpinned by something else or something different to what we're trying to do in our approach. So really it's just collaborating with industry as we move forward down this path and being inclusive and transparent as we do it. I'll just run through a couple adjacent projects. I didn't set my timer, Bill. Am I going okay?
Yes, look, we'll go through till 12:45 and then we'll go on to Amanda. Amanda's got her act together again.
Okay, there might be some time for questions, or Amanda, I'm not sure if I have 50 minutes left here, but we'll give it a go. So for the next concept of digital twins, we develop standards in this space through our technical committee, IT42, with the name Internet of Things and Digital Twin. And we also released a white paper which highlights the benefits, the challenges, and some key recommendations with regards to digital twins. And it was really informed by its sort of collaborative approach with industry, our engagement process, and the information that it provides relating to the scale of digital twins and the opportunity in Australia. And it talks about sort of 4 objectives that the paper wants to achieve, and that's really around background and observations so far in Australia and internationally. A focus on the role of standards in developing and implementing digital twins in Australia, helping support Australia's leadership, influence the uptake of digital and critical technologies, both domestically and internationally, and really support opportunities to advance the digital twin concept in Australia to grow the market and realize the value that comes out of implementing these solutions. And also we want to be part of the international conversation and take these concepts up to ISO to ensure that we have a sort of global reach and everyone's talking the same language across the members of ISO. Finally, the digital and data dashboard is a live reporting platform that profiles 8 digital and data technology areas and provides live data on international and Australian standards, international committees, and also the Australian mirror committees that develop and adopt these standards. So a really useful tool that's available on our website. Smart cities. The work we're doing in this space is we've convened a group of real experts in their field through a Smart Cities Advisory Group. And this group really meets quarterly to explore key thematic areas and the standards that impact smart city implementation or potentially gaps or international standards that may complement. So it really just looks at a sort of roadmap strategy in the area, and explore how cities can support security, resilience, sustainability, and other emerging issues. And finally, our committees bring together a range of experts from backgrounds to develop and adopt standards for the Australian context. And as I said before, they mirror international committees, and also ensure that during the development of those international documents that Australia has a say, and ensure that it's fit for purpose when we adopt it in Australia. Artificial intelligence, I think we all think this is the buzzword of 2023, but it's so important, and we've partnered with CSIRO as a responsible AI network knowledge partner. And this work is it's already kicked off. I think there are a couple other organizations internationally that are doing a similar concept, but it's really exciting that this has happened in Australia, and it's a really big deal. We went to the launch a few months back, and when you see the partners that are involved in this initiative, I think you'll realize its importance and weight. And the partners include Google, CEDA, Australia Industry Group, Data 61, Tech Council Australia, the Ethics Centre, and the division of UTS. So really important work in this field, and our objectives by partnering with this is really to communicate the role of standards in supporting responsible AI implementation, and also deliver training material and content on AI standards through the platform. This will also hopefully position us as a leader in responsible AI, and leverage the network of the AI practitioners, business leads, professionals, and everyone else who's involved in this program. Just on a side note, I recently presented at a Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation event in Seattle, where we talked about implementing artificial intelligence at scale across the APEC region, 21 countries. We commissioned some research and put out a survey to all those economies on the challenges that they're facing with the implementation of AI. And out of that, we created an issues paper. We presented that paper to those who attended in Seattle over a 2-day workshop. Already hosted some interactive workshops and sessions to try and drill down to what the problems are and what the potential solutions could be. And there was an underlying narrative from our perspective, highlighting the point that ISO had 21 artificial intelligence standards currently developed. They had about 30 on their roadmap, and that there was also an artificial intelligence framework for implementing coming out later this year, which is going to help the industry as well. So a lot of work in the sort of critical emerging technology space. And again, we don't just talk about this. We've released a couple of white papers, and the recordings from workshops that we've hosted on behalf of CSIRO are available. And again, a podcast talking about concepts, and they're really interesting webinars with people really clued up in artificial intelligence, and I encourage you to review those. Going back to digital engineering, I've just sort of touched on this before, but essentially the next steps is releasing our third paper, which is planning the common data model. And it is under peer review at the moment with a few industry associations who showed interest in further making sure that we were on point with what we're developing and the concepts that we're covering. And that is planned for release later this calendar year. And as I said before, we think about standards or technical specifications or producing anything, we would engage further with industry to make sure that the scope and content and where we're going is going to be fit for purpose, because we're not doing it for Standards Australia's benefit. All the work that we do must demonstrate a benefit, what we call a net benefit, to Australia. And it's no different with these concepts and these new sort of alternate pathways that we're working towards. I might leave this screen up if everyone can please scan the QR code. We do have a small survey just asking around your sort of involvement with digital engineering and the path we're on. So if you could please just capture that and complete the survey, it will really help towards that engagement with industry to ensure we're on the right path. Bill, I might be finishing a bit early, but my next slide is questions. So I'm more than happy to have a conversation with the floor, or
Yes, Roland, we've got two questions, particularly related to your presentation, and much appreciated. Thank you. Megan Finney asks, Roland, what document and/or standard can help councils work through their DE journey? And I think the answer is all three, but I'll let you elaborate.
Yeah, definitely. And those all three are conceptual, right? So I think if you start having the conversation with the powers that be in councils, just do the same as we're doing, sort of spread this the narrative of what it could do, the benefits, and following these white papers. And as I said, if industry supports where we're going, then we'll be potentially releasing technical specifications or standards, depending on where the fit is. That will then give you the practical tools to implement digital engineering through the concepts that I spoke about.
Okay, look, what I'd like to do, not sure how to do it, Roland, what we'd like to do is communicate with all those who have logged on today with the link to all of those two or three documents. So if you could let us know what the link is for that, then we'll communicate that to the attendees today, if that's all right.
Yeah, 100%, Bill. Let me just check. I don't think there's any issues sharing the slide deck, but I might just clean up some of the notes, and then all the links will be on each page.
Okay, the next question also from Megan. And what do you think the landscape will look like in 5 years' time? Do you think accreditation will be required or sought to comply with these standards?
Very interesting question. I don't think 5 years is going to be long enough. I think if we think about the time it takes to develop standards and then communicate that and actually implement, I think it's a longer horizontal journey than 5 years. And the concepts of certifications and the likes, certification isn't really our game. I think the value of standards and the value of adhering to voluntary standards, as I said, gives you that sort of level playing field and advantage, and consumer confidence that you're operating your business to Australian standards. So hopefully the benefits of, and this is, I think, we clearly need to sort of articulate the benefits to every level of the sort of construction industry sector, from C-level, board level down, to get buy-in. And then I think the results will speak for themselves, and whether certification is necessary or not, I can't answer that 100% categorically, but my personal view is that the hope that it wouldn't be necessary.